Good morning everyone, and welcome to our backyard. In today's video, I would like to talk to you about the annual vine that we grow from seed called Cardinal Climber. And Cardinal Climber, I purchased this seed once. This is the little trumpet bloom. It's putting on a tiny little flush of blooms this spring. But we grow this vine every year. We collect the seeds every year. And so we purchased one packet of seeds 10, 15, probably 15, over 15 years ago. And we'll direct sow the seeds in March down here in Zone 9 along the Texas Gulf Coast. And I have a trellis panel, 5-piece trellis panel that it grows up. Let me go around the front. So I can't get directly in the front because the sun is coming out. But this 5-piece trellis panel supports lots of those Cardinal Climber plants, and the tops of the panels get very bushy. And I'm going to put a video on the top of your screen that shows what this looks like in its glory. Love Cardinal Climber for the fact that it will prolifically bloom those little flowers that last a day, and we can get between 400 and 500 blooms a day on these trellises. So I did put in a new garden bed this spring. And one of the things that we have done is we are succession planting Cardinal Climber. So this is what Cardinal Climber looks when it breaks ground. And you can see the true leaves on this group are just starting to pop out. If you direct sow any of your sowing, I would highly recommend that you soak your seeds in water for at least 24 hours. These we soaked for over 30 and they popped up in 2 days. If you don't soak them, it can take anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. The seed is just it's got a very strong and hard seed coat. It's like a black little hard seed. So we've planted this group first, which is I've got 2 octagons, one here and one on the other side. And we've planted Cardinal Climber later. And the reason we did this is I'm hoping what this will do is allow us to have the blooms a little bit longer. Right now, our Cardinal Climber will bloom from August until sometimes, depending on the year, it can be the beginning of December. So it does have a long bloom time, but we're hoping that this succession planting, we can actually go through our first frost. So I guess we'll see. You know, it doesn't cost us anything, so it'll be kind of an interesting experiment. The other thing that we do is we grow Cardinal Climber along our north fence. So I am going to go over there. So along our north fence, we have Cardinal Climber that we also direct sow. And we have this plastic border that interlocks. And the only reason we plant them in this, which is kind of like, if you will, a little raised bed, is purely so the vines are protected when my husband mows and edges with the weed whacker. And so that is the only reason we have this. And they're easy. We just got those interlocking plastic borders from either Lowe's or Home Depot. And then they grow up fishing wire. And sometimes we keep 1 or 2 of the vines not so it's messy, but just so there's a little bit more volume. But the vines also grow up beautifully on fishing line itself. But the reason we use fishing line is because it isn't hot. Metal gets too hot down here. And so my husband created a pattern using this fishing line and the fence. So down at the base, there's an eye hook. You can see the fishing line is tied here. And this will be the third season this fishing line has lasted. It's very inexpensive and it is long lasting for us anyway. And then he created kind of a diamond pattern, but he also has a straight line going across the top, and that's where almost all of the Cardinal Climber is going to be. It is sun loving, and it will be at the top of our fence, nice and bushy and covered in flowers. But this is what it looks like in early spring, and it's on its way climbing up. Now, one of the questions I was asked, and I'm going to walk along here, is do you really see the pattern? And you don't. So even though, yes, the Cardinal Climber does climb, you don't really see this pattern lower on the fence. Where you see it, again, is way up at the top. And it's just bushy up here and covered with flowers in late summer. And these flowers are loved by pollinators, especially hummingbirds, but also butterflies and bees. And so I have, golly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 of these planters all along our north fence. Apologize for the sun peeking through, but as you can see, they're all along here. And they pretty much get full sun all throughout the day. So again, the vine doesn't get super bushy down here, but it will get very, very bushy up at the top. I was kind of hoping to be able to see those diamond patterns, and you really don't. But what you do see is a glorious vine that we take advantage of, the vertical space on this north fence. So why do I dedicate so much vertical space to this tiny little bloom? And it is purely because of what it attracts. For us in the South, it's easy to grow. It is a tropical plant. It's a cross between a red morning glory and a cypress vine. And the leaf does look like that cross between the two, the leaf structure. It's an airy type plant, but it will get thick once it's up at the top. So I have mentioned this before, because we live in an area where we can get really high winds, we use these cattle T-posts that we strap our trellises to. And the vine doesn't particularly like metal, we've noticed through the years. It will go up wood, but in particular, they really like fishing line. And so what my husband will do is we'll come in, and we need to do that this year, but we'll come in and string fishing line in the center, so it's easier for the Cardinal Climber to climb up. But that's just so we get pretty good coverage. It's a really unique looking leaf, isn't it? So I've done a few videos on this Cardinal Climber. I'm surprised we're getting some of these blooms. It last year it did this for us too. We got blooms earlier in the spring. But it's peak, like I said, its peak time is starting in August. So I'm going to put at the top of the screen some of the other videos that I've done on Cardinal Climber so you can see how glorious this vine is in late summer and early fall. I know people have grown it all throughout the US, and if you do grow it in places where it doesn't warm up until, say, May, June, it's highly recommended that you start it indoors so it has that chance, that head start, because it does need a lot of growing time. They say between 100 and 110 days for the first to bloom. But as you can see, we've got a couple of blooms already. It's pretty easy to get the seed. At least once you have it, it's easy to harvest it yourself. And again, I have a video on harvesting the seed. Well, thanks for joining me today. For those of you in the south that grow Cardinal Climber, it's time to get it in the ground so you'll have wonderful flowers later on. Well, thanks for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you again soon.